Welcome to the Cold Frequency channel. I'm Millie. Before we dive into the dark, I want to make one thing clear. The stories on the channel are usually true stories submitted by viewers. Some may be inspired by real events or urban legend from around the world. I also change the names of the character in the story and sometimes place names to maintain privacy as the request of the story submitters. The name are fake, but the terror they experience is absolutely real. Now, let's begin. My name is Anna, an office worker constantly buried in numbers and pressure. In November 2019, after our Q3 wrapped up, my two best friends and I decided to take a trip to Dalat, somewhere quiet, far from a city. Dalat is a mountain city known as its endless pine forest and cold fog. The scenery is beautiful, but it hides some dark stories. We wanted a real privacy, so we skipped the downtown hotels. Following a coworker's tip, we rented a cheap, isolated wooden cabin on a hill. After a 7-hour bus ride, we arrived at the edge of the forest. It was completely deserted, far from any houses or people. I called the number we've been given. A woman answered and told us to wait. 10 minutes later, a woman around 50, gray hair and soft-spoken, paddled up on an old bicycle. She told us to follow her up to the mountain path. We dragged our luggage behind her as she rode just slow enough for us to keep up. About 15 minutes later, we reached a wooden cabin sitting on a cliff, surrounded by green tea and a coffee hill. The house has a vintage feel, arched tile roof, 2 floors, a fan, a balcony, and some outdoor wooden furniture. It looked perfectly for watching sunsets. The only problem was completely cut off from everything. No street lights, no neighbors, just pine trees and coffee plants going all the way into the dark. Inside, it was cozy and fully furnished. We paid upfront, and the landlady paddled back down the mountain. We happily unpacked. I took the only bedroom on the ground floor. My friends took the upper level. Everything was fine until the middle of the night. At 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of creaking wood and footsteps on the front porch. There was no other houses nearby. I knew exactly what I was hearing. The footsteps didn't stop. They slowly circled the cabin. Heard pounding. I crept to my bedroom door and slowly cracked it open. The old hinges squeaked. I looked toward the front entrance. A tall, dark shadow was blocking the moonlight coming through the window beside the door. Before I could think, the front door handle rattled. Someone was checking if it was unlocked. Then a face pressed against the glass, trying to see inside. I yanked my head back, praying he hadn't seen me. After 10 long seconds, the rattling stopped. I peeked again. The face was gone. I slipped out of my room and tiptoed upstairs to warn my friends. They wanted to call the police, but it was 2 a.m. We were 15 minutes from the bottom of the mountain and another 10 from the town. Would anyone get to us in time? One friend suggested we climb out of the window and run for help. But we had no idea how many people were out there or whether they were armed. Before she even finished talking, the front door creaked open. Every footstep came inside. Without thinking, I locked the bedroom door. The footstep moved into my empty bedroom downstairs. Then, we heard things being thrown around violently. He knew I wasn't there. He was coming upstairs. Hurry! I whispered. My friend's shaking hand unlatched the window. Cold wind hit our faces. Just outside the tile roof of the ground floor porch, about 2 meters above the great crash. If we dropped carefully, we wouldn't get hurt. The footstep reached the top of the stair, his shadow crept under the gap below the door. I pushed my friend out first. They stepped over the sill, slid down the tiles, grabbed the edge, and dropped onto the crash. My turn. Just as I swung half of my body out the window, the door handles twisted hard. The heavy door shook from a massive kick. "Open the door!" I slipped off the sill, slid down from the wet tiles, and hit the ground hard. My shoulder slammed into the dirt, but the adrenaline killed the pen. "Run!" We sprinted into the fog, too scared to use our flashlight. We ran on poor instincts. No path, no plan. I didn't look back. But just as we hit the tree line, I heard upstairs window shatter, with the heavy thud of someone landing right behind us. He was chasing us. We ran down the mountain, following the dirt path from the memory. Once I felt we had enough distance, I switched on my phone flashlight. A weak beam on the road ahead. We didn't stop. We ran straight toward the lights at the bottom of the hill. It wasn't until we saw the lights of a local police station that we finally collapsed, gasping for air. The officer on duty rushed out, handed us water, and listened while we told him everything. He called for backup right away. Intruder was gone. My bedroom door was completely kicked in. Our bags had been ransacked. Cash and small valuable was gone. The officer called the landlady. She arrived 30 minutes later. Her face pale when she saw the damage. She was the real owner and has no idea any of this has happened. But what came out later is what still haunts me. A few days later, back in the city, the police called to say they had caught him. It wasn't a random burglar. It was the landlady's own son. He was a drug addict, deep in debt, and out of work. As the owner's son, he knew every corner of that cabin. Last afternoon, he has overheard his mother mention that the new guests were 3 young women traveling alone. That was enough for him. He waited until we were asleep, and if I hadn't randomly woken up at 2 a.m., given how isolated that cabin was, I don't think his plan would have stopped at stealing a few bills from our wallets. Like and subscribe so you don't miss the next terrifying story. In early 2020, just before the country went into the full lockdown, my university suspended classes. At first, I was thrilled about a break, but boredom hit fast. I complained to my friend group, and one of them, let's call her Sarah, suggested a motorcycle trip to Vũng Tàu Beach. 3 hours away. Best idea I had ever heard in weeks. We packed our bags and left the next day. Before the trip, I've searched through social media and found an old French colonial villa with a pool, going for a suspiciously cheap price. I figured they had lowered the rate because of this off-season and the pandemic was starting to make people nervous. I booked it without a second thought. When we pulled up, the villa stood out right away from the surrounded houses. The street was quiet, barely any shops, almost no one's around. The host was waiting at the gate. He greeted us with a big, overly friendly smile and led us on a tour. The outside looked well kept. Pale yellow walls, clean green shutters. Inside, high ceiling and checkered tile floor make it feel open and airy. Everything was tidy, but the place felt strangely cold and off. Heavy dark wooden furniture sat perfectly still, like it hadn't been touched in decades. The floor smelled strongly of lemongrass cleaner, and underneath that, something else. Stale seawater, rotting wood. There was 4 bedrooms. I immediately climbed the master suite on the second floor, big with its own bathtub, and shared with my best friend. The others took the older rooms downstairs. One odd thing right away. The master bedroom was strangely cold, even with the AC turned off, and it had constant smell of rotten seaweed. Outside, it was boiling hot March weather, so the chills make no sense. But I wasn't superstitious, so I blamed it on the sea breeze and moved on. That was a mistake I soon regret. The first day was great. Beach, a BBQ at the pool, beers until late. When we finally crashed, I slept like a log until after midnight, when everything fell apart. Around 2 a.m., I woke up with a dry throat from all the beers. My best friend was snoring beside me in the pitch black room. I grabbed my phone and turned on a flashlight to find my water bottle. The beam hit the wooden floor and stopped. It was wet and slippery. I pointed the light lower, running from the half-open bathroom door. All the way to the edge of my bed was a trail of wet bare footprint, small but adult size. The puddle smell was awful. The same rotting seaweed stench from before, but 10 times stronger. It nearly made me gag. Still half drunk and tired, I told myself it was a leaky pipe, that my friends must have stepping on it. I turned off the light, pulled the blanket up, and went back to sleep. Big mistake. At exactly 3:15 a.m., my eyes shot open. The room felt like a prison. I tried to sit up and couldn't. My whole body was frozen, jaw locked tight, sleep paralyzed. I could only move my eyes, and they tripped toward the bedroom door. A figure rose from the bathtub, dripping, tangled black hair, a white sock dress, painfully thin, above 5 feet tall, and it didn't walk. It slid across the floor toward the foot of my bed, dragging that horrible smell of dead fish and dirty water with it. It leaned in close. The smell of rot hit me so hard I nearly choked. Its eye socket was completely empty, just 2 black holes, with thick slimes oozing from its nose and mouth. It tossed its head, staring at me without eyes, like it was trying to tell me something I couldn't understand. Then, its arm slowly rose, pointing toward the balcony. Its mouth forked out broken whispers. Buried in the garden. A hand slapped cracked across my face. I gasped awake. My best friend was beside me, yelling my name. He has been hitting me to shake me out of it. Said I was moaning. soaked in sweat, stiff at a bolt. He figured it was sleep paralysis and smacked me awake. I sat up, chest heaving, and told him everything. He believed every word. He has always been into paranormal. Then my eyes dropped to the floor. The wet, slimy footprint was still there. It wasn't a dream. Something has physically been inside our room. We ran downstairs, woke everyone up, and stayed in the living room until sunrise. When we told others, Max thought the spirit was asking for help. None of us wanted to dig in around, but we couldn't ignore. Buried in the garden. Before grabbing our bags, Max walked out of the backyard and looked at the area directly under my balcony. He stopped cold. His face went completely pale. I ran out after him. Under an old frangipani tree was a raised mound of cracked, uneven dirt. And rising faintly from it, the same horrible smell of rotting seaweed. That was all we need. We drove straight to the local police station and reported everything. A few weeks later, back in the city, a story broke on the local news. The police had dug up the garden. They found the skeletal remains of a woman. It was the host's ex-wife. The same man who had greeted with that warm, friendly smile. He confessed that in a fit of jealousy, he had held her beneath the surface in that second-floor bathtub. When he came back to his senses, she was already out of breath. So he buried her under the tree, fixed up the villa, and started renting it out cheap. I don't know what would have happened if we had stayed one more night and went into that man again. That trip completely changed how I see the world. But in a way, I'm glad it happened. At least we helped bring the truth to the light. I always thought I had the perfect life, a great career, love, family. I genuinely believed no one could be as happy as I was. Then I woke up in the middle of the night to the worst phone call of my life. My fiancée has passed away in a car crash on her way home. In that moment, everything I had just fell apart. That was 3 years ago. I fell into depression and survived on heavy medication just to quiet Easy's voice in my head. The hallucinations, the echoes of all the happy memories we had shared together. My family was very sick, but there wasn't much anyone could do. I just couldn't let her go. So, when I moved into a suburban rental to be closer to my new teaching job, I told myself it was a fresh start. The least I could do was keep living for her. She always wanted a quiet suburban house exactly like this one. The place was an old single-story house at the dead end of the empty street, far from any neighbors. Outside, the crepe band was peeling, and a huge old oak tree cast a heavy shadow over the whole front of the house. Inside, everything was dead silent. The floorboards creaked with every step. The wallpaper had yellowed with age, and the air smelled of dust and rotting wood. The bedroom stood out most. It was a decent size, but it felt strangely tight and uncomfortable. One entire wall taken up by a massive dark built-in wooden closet. It looked like it had been built right into the structure of the house. I hadn't brought much. Some work clothes, and a framed photo of Izzy and me for the nightstand. My first night there, the silence was so complete that the buzzing of the old kitchen fridge sounded almost loud. By the second week, small strange things started happening. I had this habit of making 2 cups of coffee every morning. One for me, one left across the table, as if Izzy was still sitting there. But some evenings, coming home from work, I would stop in the doorway. Her cup would be half empty, or neatly washed and sitting in the sink. Then there was her photo on the nightstand. I always turned it toward the window to catch the morning light. But some days, I would wake up to find it facing the bed, her eyes looking straight at me. Instead of being scared, I felt a desperate, almost crazy spike of hope. It's her. Izzy's followed me here. I threw every pill I had in the trash. I was scared the medication would dull my sense and cut whatever connection I had to her. And without the pills, her presence felt even more real. At night, in total darkness, I started hearing a faint rustling near the built-in closet. It sounds like bare feet softly crossing the wooden floor. I would lie there, smiling in the dark, convinced it was her moving around the room. Some nights, half asleep, I could clearly feel the mattress sink beside me, soft one pressing against the back of my neck. I never turned around. I would just close my eye tight and let the tears fall. Quietly, grateful that easy souls had stayed with me. I held onto that sweet, sad delusions with everything I had. Until the 14th night. It had been a long day. Work, then dinner with colleagues. And I was completely drained by the time I got home. I didn't even change clothes. I just dropped onto the bed, still in my work shirt and shoes. Too tired to do anything else. I looked over at Izzy's photo. I'm home, I whispered. Don't worry, my love. I was out almost instantly. Then, a small, quiet click pulled me back. It came from the direction of the built-in closet. I had no idea what time it was. I was lying on my side, facing the nightstand, eyes barely opened. A small smile already on my face. Izzy is here. The mattress sank behind my back, just like it always did. A warmth leaning in closer. But something was wrong. Very wrong. My memory of Izzy always came with a soft smell of jasmine in her hair. But what was breathing down the back of my neck right now was thick and disgusting. Sour sweat, stale urine, and something rotten. My stomach turned. Through the thin slit of my eyelids, I looked up. Someone was crawling over me from behind, reaching across the body toward the nightstand. As he bent down, his face hovered directly above mine, less than an inch away. That was not easy. It was a man, a stranger. His skin was filthy, caked with crime. Greasy, made hair cover half his face. His disgusting breath hit my cheek in slow, steady wave. Every bit of sleepiness left my body instantly, replaced by the fear so strong I couldn't move. I held my breath, kept my chest completely still. He wasn't looking at me. His eyes was fixed on Izzy's photo. Then, in a low, rough voice, grinding each word out slowly, he whispered, "Our wife looks so beautiful today." Her dirty hand, nails long and curling, reached over and gently touched the picture frame. Just past his arm, I could see the built-in closet standing wide open. The wooden back panel has been pushed aside, leaving a dark hollow gap behind the wall. He wasn't a ghost. He has been living inside my walls, watching me sleep, eating my food, calling my dead fiancée his wife for the past 2 weeks. As my stomach turned from the smell, the weight of the match strip slipped. He climbed quietly off the bed and crept out of the room. I listened carefully. The fridge opened in the kitchen. He was looking for food. This was my only change. I opened my eyes, grabbed my phone and keys from a nightstand, stood up slowly, and took careful, barefoot step toward the door. A loose floorboard ground under my foot. My heart stopped. I froze and waited. The rummaging in the kitchen continued. He hadn't heard it. I slipped into the hallway. One looked toward the kitchen. He was still facing away, digging through the fridge. In one quick move, I shoved the key into the front lock, drew the door open, stepped outside, and slammed it shut behind me. Turned the key twice. Deadbolt. I ran into the middle of the street and called the police. 15 minutes later, a patrol car pulled up. They swept every room with guns drawn. 10 minutes later, the officer walked back outside and shook his head. Empty. The man was gone. But he couldn't have let through a deadbolt front door, unless he went out a different way. I led them into the bedroom and pointed at the closet. When they shone this flashlight into the dark gap behind the back panel, the whole room went quiet. Behind the walls was a narrow scroll space running along inside the house frame. Inside was a dirty front mattress, empty food wrappers, and my second coffee cup. But the thing will stay with me forever was a small hole drilled through the wooden panel, aimed perfectly at the center of the bed where I slept every night. At the far end of the tight dark space, a wretched old vent cover has been torn out of the wall, opening straight into the overgrown backyard. He has crawled through it and slipped away into the night while I was standing at the front door waiting for police. Izzy's spirit was never in this house. There was only a man hiding inside the walls, watching my every move, eating my food, living off my crib, long before I ever moved in.
If you have true story you would like to share with the channel, please send them to the Cold Frequency's email address in the description. Subscribe to support me making more videos. Your support is my motivation. See you in the next video.